First Kings chapter number 2. First Kings chapter number 2. And this is going to be a Father's Day message. It's going to be a Father's Day message, but I think everybody can learn.
Thank you for listening to Freedom Church Online. Please stay tuned for a powerful word from God. We would love to have you worship with us in person, Sundays at 10:45 a.m. at 701 Harwood Road in Bedford. Until then, sit back and enjoy this word.
Day. In our society, in our country, in our nation, in our culture, we oftentimes choose happy over healthy. We choose happy over healthy. We choose the condition of how we feel, our emotions, and our bodies over what's best for us. We choose happy, the state of our circumstance, over healthy, the defining factors of our circumstance. Happiness, as I just said, is determined by our circumstances. It's determined by what's happening. So happiness is, in a sense, fleeting. Happiness is, in a sense, floating. It changes, it fluctuates, and it's always up and down. It's based on where I am today, what the circumstances were. I may or may not be happy about how service went today. I may or may not be happy about the state of my marriage. I may or may not be happy about the way that I look. I may or may not be happy with my job, my financial situation. I may or may not be happy with God. And the truth of the matter is, when we let our happiness determine our actions, it literally puts us in a state of schizophrenia. And this is why the world that we live in looks the way it looks. Because people choose happiness over healthiness every day. And so in one moment, you can talk to a person and they're excited about life. They are revved up and ready to go and do everything that they feel they've been called to accomplish. But in the next moment, they're ready to give up because happiness told them that it wasn't here today. Happiness decided not to show up at their address at that particular moment. Happiness said that I'm not showing up today, and so you have no right to live. And people are up and down based on the circumstances of life because we are looking for happiness. On the other hand, health is a determining factor in our circumstances. The healthier you are, the better you are able to determine where you're going according to the will of God. I'm going to say that again. The healthier you are, the better position you're in to determine where it is that you're heading according to the will of God. If the will of God is taking me to a certain place, I can have determination in heading to that place when I'm healthy. But when I'm not healthy, I'm circumstantial. I'm up and down. I can't achieve what God has called me to do. See, there are certain things that God is calling you to that are going to require you to go through things that don't feel so good to you. And so when you're moving according to your happiness and not according to your health, all right, y'all acting like y'all don't understand what I'm saying. Come here for a second. How many of y'all run a lot? Y'all run. Alan, raise your hand. There you go. Alan, Holly, I see y'all run. Others of y'all that run, yeah, runners. Yeah, I don't like you. I don't like you. You runners. Because see, what happens is I always think to myself, I'm gonna be a runner this year, Kevin. I think I'm gonna be a runner this year. At the beginning of the year, I had a friend a long time ago. He's actually one of my dad's friends, and he said he used to run marathons. He said if you just get up and start running as far as you can every day, and then just add a little bit more the next week, and add a little bit more the next week. That's how he got started running marathons. He said he couldn't run a full city block before he started running marathons, but he just ran a little bit every day, and he ran a little bit every day. And I said, yep, I'm gonna be a runner. I'm gonna take what Dwayne said, I'm gonna put it in my head, and I'm gonna be a runner this year. Hadn't worked out for me in the last 17 years. I've been saying I was gonna do that. Here's why I don't like the runners. The runners, if something were to go down, see, y'all thinking I'm saying I don't like the runners because they can run and I'm not disciplined like this. No, if something were to go down right now, and we all had to run, the runners are gonna get away. And I'm gonna suffer because I can't run. The circumstance will be the same for everybody, doom and gloom. It won't be the people who are happy that will survive. In the midst of the circumstance, we're gonna have to run and duck and dive and turn corners and do all kinds of things. And it will be the healthy people Because at the end of the time when we have to run, I say, Pastor, why has it always got to be doom and gloom? Listen, anything can ever pop off in life. You got to be ready. Be ye also ready. But the reality is, it's going to be the people who can run, the people who are healthy, the people who have trained themselves through the thick and the thin, through the things that are hard, through the things that don't feel good, through the uncomfortable place, through the place of gaining the pace where they can go. And the rest of us who didn't raise our hands are going to be, we're going to be gassed. And it's not going to be based on our emotions. It's going to be based on whether or not we trained ourselves for health. What makes me happy is not always what's healthy, but research shows that being healthier can lead to being happier. We choose health over happiness in so many different areas. Happiness over health in so many different areas. We want to be happy today, so we buy the thing that we cannot afford to make us happy today, but we're financially unhealthy tomorrow. We want to be happy today, and so we jump into the relationship with the person who we know is not a fit for our kingdom values and the things that God has called us to be happy tonight, but not healthy in the morning, because emotionally now we're torn apart. Ouch, I'm saying it before I say it. We want to be happy tonight with a beautiful fried chicken dinner, macaroni and cheese, greens, black-eyed peas, all of that stuff. You name it, Tony said. You got all of that stuff on your plate and you're happy today, happy until your sleep coma, but when you wake up in the morning, you're not healthy. And this unhealth oftentimes leads to a place of unhappiness. Now I'm not only unhealthy financially, I'm unhappy with my financial state. Not only is my relationship unhealthy, I'm now unhappy with my relational status. Not only is my body unhealthy, I'm now unhappy with how I look. That the reality is, when we choose happiness over health, we oftentimes are choosing a life of unhappiness. But God has not led us to this place. He wants us to be healthy. Research proves that exercise and diet, close relationships that are healthy according to values, generosity financially, have all been linked to improved mental health, longer lifespans, better financial status, and an all-around better quality of life. When we choose health, we actually get happiness. When we choose happiness, we don't always get health. So in conjunction with all of this that I'm telling you today, I believe that many of us would have a happier view of Father's Day if we had healthier fathers. If we had a healthier view of fatherhood, we'd have a happier view of Father's Day. I joke and I laugh to say that Mother's Day gets all the attention, but the truth of the matter is our system, our culture, our media has downplayed the role of fathers and men in general in our society. And today, I want to tell you that we can't keep choosing to be happy, conformed, just like everybody else, and then later find ourselves generationally unhappy because the men are absent in our lives. Generationally unhappy because we don't even have a man to cling to be a father figure. Generationally unhappy because the most mature of us are still little boys in our minds. That's tight, but it's right. I want to park there because I need to tell you this. I'm tired of seeing men who can dress the part. I ain't here to beat you up, and I'm about to give you a lot of credit in a minute. But I'm tired of seeing men who can dress the part, men who can talk the talk, but behind closed doors, they got the same issues that everybody else has. And here's the problem, man. We've got to get ourselves together in our minds, not just in our appearance. So I'm looking today to promote Healthy Father's Day. That in Freedom Church, we will have healthy men who love their families, their wives like Christ loved the church, and their children, not to a place of wrath. Healthy men who love God and people. Healthy men who are influential in influencing the culture or impacting the culture and changing the way that things are seen and done in our society. I'm looking to see healthy men. And where do I find it? I find it not in a perfect man, but a godly man. I'm going to read for you a passage of David passing the throne on to his son Solomon. Men, come close. I need everybody to pay attention as I talk to these men, because nobody is asking these men to be perfect. No. Sister, you got a problem, because what you fantasized about in having a husband or a father is not the exact picture of what the Bible paints. He never paints the picture of a perfect man. He paints the picture of a godly man. One who makes mistakes, but knows how to learn from them. One who has issues, but is not settled in his issues. One who says, I know I did that wrong, but if it's up to me and it's up to God in me, I ain't doing that again. I'm moving forward. The reality is we're looking for healthy men, and in this text we've got a man named David, a man who's made mistakes up to this point, a man who he's going to talk to his son that was conceived out of a relationship that was born out of his own sin. You remember the story. David goes on the roof to stretch when he should be fighting, and he sees Bathsheba bathing on her rooftop. And when he sees this fine sister bathing on the rooftop, he has to stop and stare. He doesn't have to. He chooses to. But he looks and he says, listen, I got to have her. And he calls for her and has her as his wife, finds out she's pregnant, has her husband come home, try to have him fill in that role, was even, watch this, willing to give up his own child. Y'all don't look at the implications of what he was doing with Uriah, do you? That if Uriah had slept with Bathsheba, David would have had a child that he would have completely ignored for all of his life. He would have said, that's Uriah's baby, it's not mine. He would have denied his own child. I'm telling you, the issues of our culture are not new. I'm just trying to help somebody. Let's this, though. Can I talk to a brother who hasn't been the perfect daddy? God still called him a man after his own heart. Stop letting people beat you up about what you did. It's not about where you've been, it's about where you're going. And so David, this same man who after he tries to have Uriah come home and sleep with Bathsheba, Uriah refuses because he's so loyal. David has him killed. Cold-blooded. Has him killed. I don't have to spend time on that story, but then you go on. And here's David, same brother who's been called a man after God's own heart, takes a census of Israel when God tells him, listen, rely on me, don't rely on your numbers. God says, he's still a man after my own heart. He's messed up. He's relied in the strength of his army. He's relied in the strength of his wealth. He's relied in his material things. He's relied in that, but he's still a man after my heart. This is the man we're going to talk about today in Healthy Father's Day. The same man, watch this, that when it gets down to the time where his sons are grown, he has one son rape his half-sister, his daughter, and he says nothing about it. He stays silent. Y'all need to read your Bible. It's better than all my children. Good stuff in there. It's better than Young and Restless too. Somebody was like, well, not Young and Restless, though, but Young and Restless is my jam. It's better than that too. Here's what he says. He ignores it. And as a result of him ignoring it, one of his sons kills his other son. And because he's so messed up in his fatherhood, watch this, he ends up in a place where two of his sons try to overthrow him as kid. This is the man that I'm going to talk about today. Why do I bring up all these issues, Willie? Because I need you to know that you're qualified. When I read David's story, Brandon, it makes me realize that I ain't so bad after all. When I read David's story, I realize that if God will use him, God will use anybody. And I look in the mirror, and not to compare myself with David, but I say, man, you are going to be used by God, brother. You can stand up and do everything that God has called you to do. And can I tell everybody in this room, man and woman alike, that you can do everything that God has called you to do, that you are qualified not based on what you've done, but based on what he calls you and what he's placed in you, you can do it. So I want to read for you 9 verses, and then I'm going to quickly move through 3 points, and we'll go home, or 4 points, and we'll move home and have Father's Day celebrations all over the city. Here we go. 1 Kings chapter 2 says, "Now the days of David drew near, that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth." Euphemism for I'm about to die. "Be strong, therefore, and prove yourself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that you may prosper in all that you do, and wherever you turn, that the Lord may fulfill his word, which he spoke concerning me, saying, if your sons take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart and with all their soul, he said, you shall not lack a man on the throne of Israel. Moreover, you know also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me, and what he did to the 2 commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner, the son of Ner, and Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he killed. And he shed the blood of war in peacetime, and put the blood of war on his belt, and was around his waist, and on his sandals that were on his feet. Therefore do according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray hair go down to the grave in peace, but show kindness to the sons of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table. For so they came to me when I fled from Absalom, your brother. And see, you have with you Shimei, the son of Gera, a Benjamite from Bahurim, who cursed me with a malicious curse in the day when I went to Mahanaim. But he came down to meet me in the Jordan, and I swore to him by the Lord, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. Now therefore, do not hold him guiltless, for you are a wise man, and know that what you ought to do to him. But bring his gray hair down to the grave with blood. This text I just read to y'all is rough. Y'all like, man, how is he going to work this? David just told you to kill a couple folk, don't let them get away, make some stuff happen. I promise you by the end of this, y'all going to be blessed. Y'all should already be blessed. It's the word of the Lord. It's the truth. But here it is. Let me give you 4 things and we'll jump out. Healthy fathers. Healthy fathers, number 1, pass on the faith. Healthy fathers pass on the faith. We see in verses 1 through 4, David is about to die. Oftentimes in Israelite culture, when a man is about to die, he pulls his kids close and begins to pronounce blessings over them. Go back and read in Genesis, I believe it's around 47, that Jacob is about to die. He calls all of the boys to him, and he begins to proclaim blessings over them. Or he begins to pronounce their destinies over them. He begins to talk to them about the things that they have done and the things that they will do. Oftentimes in Israelite culture, men will begin to pronounce blessings before they die. It is like the passing of the torch. This is why it's significant. If you don't understand this, you never will fully understand why Elisha rushed to see Elijah leave. If you don't understand the passing on of blessing, you'll never understand that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Elijah was a prophet, Elijah, and Elisha was his protege, Elisha. Elijah is getting ready to go away to be with the Lord. The Lord says, I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to take him away in a chariot of fire. Elisha says, Master, I want to be there when you leave. Here's the reason why. Because if you're there when they leave, you get the blessing. He understood that, and so he pursued him until the day he left. The reason why the enemy, can I just talk for a second? It's going to get real in a minute. The reason why the enemy wants to take out so many men before their time is so that he can kill them before they pass on the blessing. That's why when you look at our society, there are epidemics and pandemics going on in certain communities so that the blessing can never be, one, realized, and then the blessing can never be passed on. I'm about to teach y'all some stuff today. You're going to have to really listen. This is the reason why death reigns in our communities. This is the reason why death reigns. Because Satan says if they ever realize the blessing and live long enough to pass it on, they'll turn the world upside down. This is the reason why we don't care about our health. We've lost good men to hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. We've lost some good men to health-related issues because they did not realize the blessing, and they couldn't pass it on. So in this text, David is getting ready to pass on the blessing. He says, I'm getting ready to go and die. He says, but here's what I need you to do. I need you to prove yourself a man. And then he starts to say this. Watch this. Next passage. Prove yourself a man and keep the charge of the Lord. We've got men that have been teaching manhood from the wrong angle. Prove yourself a man. How many women you been with? Prove yourself a man. What kind of house you live in? Prove yourself a man. Ask any man. After the first 5 minutes of a man being a man, he gonna ask him, what you do for a living, dog? So what you do? What do you do? Where do you work? Where'd you go to school? What are your accolades? What letters fall behind your name? That's how we're teaching men to be men. David says, Solomon, come here. I'm about to die. I figured some stuff out. The Lord has talked to me. I'm messed up. Notice, I'm not talking about a perfect man. I'm talking about a man who's lived life. And now he's coming back on the back end and teaching his son how to live the life that God has called him to. He says, son, I'm telling you this. Prove yourself a man by following the commands of the Lord. Because it takes a real man to submit himself to a power higher than himself. It takes a real man. You ever notice a man who can't submit to any authority? He's not a real man. He's insecure. You show me a man who has to buck every system and everything, and all the time he can never submit himself. It's because he's insecure. He's not a man. Prove yourself a man by submitting yourself unto God. Prove yourself a man by putting yourself into a position where you adhere to the faith. So David, a real man, a healthy father, passes on the faith. Healthy fathers pass on the faith. Let me say this, that David begins to tell him that he should keep the commandments and the judgments and the testimonies as is written in the law of Moses. He's saying, everything that we believe, son, you've got to do it. Everything that we believe, son, this is what manhood is. Everything that we believe, son, you got to pass it from your loins to your children and from their children to their children, because God's got a destiny on us that's generations down the road, and you can't cut it off at you. But I need you to understand, men, that the only way this happens is if you as a dad, watch this, are a present, practicing participant in the lives of your children. Yeah. Amen. Say it again. You must be a present. Be there. I don't care how it went down with you and her. She be tripping. I don't want to deal with her. Fine. Stop dealing with her. Deal with them. No amens on that. That you got to be present. That the ideal circumstance is for me to be there, married to her, in love. Y'all mad at God because he's telling us not to do certain things. Y'all mad at God because he's giving us instructions. Y'all mad at God because he's giving us a way of life. But if we did it God's way, we wouldn't be dealing with the drama we got in our lives. Keep it 100 now. You come and approach me with your situation. You're going to tell me how crazy she was. You're going to tell me I don't know your girl. I don't know how your baby mama operate. All of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you, did you follow the way of the Lord? And when you tell me where it is that you deviated from his plan, I'm going to tell you that's when you didn't realize. That's when you got blinded by her crazy. That's when you got fooled by her foolishness. The reality is, healthy fathers pass on the faith, but they got to be present to do it. But the next thing is they got to be practicing. You got to be practicing, Iverson. You got to practice. You don't get that reference. Holler at somebody after church, they'll tell you. You got to be practicing because, watch this, lessons my daddy taught me are often not taught, they're caught. He said, there are some things, son, that I can't teach you. You will have to watch me do. He said, there are some things that when you see me do it, watch this. Can I talk to somebody who knows this to be the truth? My daddy has certain issues, and there are certain things that my daddy taught me that were antithetical to his issues, but I picked them up anyway. I picked up his issues, even sometimes over his instruction. That there are certain things, come on somebody, be real with me, that the very thing that you disliked about it was the very thing you started to do, because what we practice is what we pass. I ain't gonna be with me today. It's sometimes what we practice what we pass. Y'all know I'm trying to get healthy. I've been eating my Mediterranean. Me and Will went to Terra the other week. Shout out Will for hanging out with me and my daughter at Terra. I've been hanging out at Mediterranean restaurants and all of these places where I can eat healthier. I'm trying to do better. I was gone for a week. And you know when you travel, it's real hard to eat healthy. But I did a good job now. Come on, somebody. I had me some salads and some spinach and greens, but one night I did have to go to Juicy Burger in Marshall. They told me it was good and I had to go. That's not my point, and we're not gonna harp on that because nobody's perfect in Jesus' name. But I've learned, watch this, that as I'm adjusting to the healthy lifestyle, what I've practiced in front of my 6-year-old daughter for 6 years of her life has become her pattern. That practices become patterns. That when I get to cooking meals at the house and I'm making something healthy, she looks at it and says, Daddy, this is what she says, is that vegan? That's her word of saying, is it healthy? Daddy, is that vegan? And I say, no, it's not vegan, but it's good for you. I don't know if I want that. Watch, I don't like that. You've never had it. Yeah, but I don't like vegan food. It's code for saying I don't like healthy food because my practice was to slide through In and Out, get a double-double, animal-style fries, large shake. Hey, somebody help me. My practice was to go to Brahms and get a double cheeseburger. When I was eating pork, slide some pieces of bacon over that joker. Give me a large cherry limeade and a large fry. My practice was to find myself at East Gourmet China Buffet. And now that I've practiced it and have reversed my practice, it's already placed a pattern in her that has created desire out of her. She doesn't understand the difference between healthy food and bad food. She just got a taste for what her daddy did. She doesn't understand that it's gonna harm her in the long run. She just knows this is what me and my daddy did together. And now that I'm reversing the course, it's harder for her to turn around. Because see, now I've got information, but it's created in her an issue. Now my instructions don't mean nothing because her issues speak louder than my instructions. She gotta have some French fries. Can I talk to the fathers in the room? That a healthy father is a present, practicing participant in his child's life, which means you can't just tell them and walk away. That you have the active role of God the Father in their lives to show them how he works. That when they make mistakes, you got to be the one showing them mercy as you mold. You've got to be the one having them on the wheel and saying, I know that you're marred, I know that you're messed up, I know that this isn't perfect, but I'm going to show you mercy as I mold you into what it is that God has called you to be. I'm going to be the one that's here for you. You got to be a present, practicing participant. You cannot be present and absent. Oh, let me talk to the dads that got the same address for a minute. Because sometimes we, I'm not talking about you. Sometimes we, dads who have the same address, who have busy schedules and important things to do. Oh, especially those of us who are men of God. You're the man of God. People need you. Can I tell you a sad story? The other day, my daughter wanted to get a hold of me. She wrote me a letter, and she addressed the letter not to daddy, but to Pastor White. My wife saw my face and she could see I was devastated. And I decided that ain't nobody as important as me molding that little girl into the person that she's supposed to be. You can't live at the same address but be absent. You got to participate in the molding of these miracles. Healthy fathers pass on the faith. Thank God that sometimes he uses, though, what we didn't see to form us into what he wants us to be. Can I talk to those of you who didn't have a present, practicing, participating father, but God made a way anyhow? Sometimes it's what you didn't see that drove you to the place of being who you needed to be. That sometimes you said to yourself, I don't want to be absent the way he was absent. Sometimes you said, I don't want to be the one who disappoints them the way I was disappointed. Sometimes it's the person who says, it's what I didn't see that's driving me to what it is that I need to be. And what God is calling you to do is to do something different and new in this season. And what you gain from the Lord, he's asking you to pass on to your children. But the second thing that we see in the text, and I got to move quickly, is that healthy fathers promote justice. I was wondering how I was going to reconcile this text, weren't you? Healthy fathers promote justice. Now, I got to be honest, you better be ready for this next section of scripture because I need to show you some things. Chapter 2, verse 5 says, moreover, you know that Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me and what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner, the son of Ner, and Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he killed. And he shed the blood of war in peacetime. But the blood of war on his belt that was around his waist, and the blood of war on his waist and on his sandals that were on his feet. Therefore, do according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray hair go down to the grave in peace. David had a group of men that we call in the Bible the 30. The 30 were David's loyal, down for whatever dudes who would ride or die with David. Go back and read about the 30, go back and read about the 3. These were mighty warriors. These were guys that were with David before he was king. They were Benjamites, which means they were cousins of Saul. But they defect to David and say, David, we believe God has an anointing on your life. We're with you. Joab was one of these guys. So now you're confused. Now you're confused because now one of his boys, one of his ride or dies, he just told his son, make sure you don't let his gray hair go down in peace. He just told him, one of my boys, I need you to take him out. What you need to understand is that Joab had become the captain of David's army. Joab was the man. Joab wasn't afraid of anybody. Everybody needs a Joab on their squad. You need one of them brothers that when times get rough, you say, Joab, step up. You need a Joab in your life. Joab was one of those dudes that wasn't afraid of anybody. Matter of fact, his crazy was too crazy because Joab, watch this in the text in particular, I ain't got time to go through everything that Joab did, but in this particular text in which we're reading, the Bible illustrates that Joab, watch this, used his authority to exercise violence in a time of peace. Coming for you. That Joab, as the commander of the army, killed innocent men using his badge. That Joab decides he's above the law and the constitution of the kingdom, that when he fears a person, because of his insecurities, I know I'm going to get hate mail, people don't want to like this type of stuff, but I got to teach the truth. Now here's Joab with his decision-making ability saying in this time of peace, when there's no necessary reason, Joab could kill a man. Now here's Joab. The Bible says it. In peacetime, there was no reason to kill Abner and Amasa. Only because he was threatened by them is the reason he killed. To be threatened by a person that is no force or actual threat against you is no reason, your perceived threat, there it is no reason for you to destroy a life. I understand that people have to make decisions, but sometimes those decisions are based purely on your stereotypes and your prejudices. Fathers, we gotta stop being silent about injustice. David says, Solomon, now I'm gonna tell you something though. I'm gonna talk about this in the next point. Fathers, you gotta make sure you're clean though. Because if you're not fully clean, you can't really administer the justice. David had some warrants in his own closet that made him not be able to take care of Joab. Come here, Uriah. When Uriah died, it was David, Bathsheba, Uriah, and Joab are the only people that knew what was going down. Uriah's dead. Bathsheba knows what she gains out of this. David is saying, I'm going to let it go down in the grave. The only person that ever knew that skeleton was in the closet was Joab. And sometimes we can't speak up because we're so messed up. But we gotta promote to the next generation that they can't be silent when things are happening and they know that this was an injustice against a man who loses his life. I hear pastors, I'm gonna say it, I hear pastors using their platforms to justify this type of thing. Maybe not using words, maybe not saying the actual names and case numbers, but 3 days after a man gets killed, blown his head off in Balch Springs, a pastor stands in his pulpit and says the police have the right and the authority to take it. That's an abuse of authority. And I'm going to speak the truth because it's my job to call it out. And here's the reality. If you pass on the faith, you will eventually promote justice. Because when you promote social reform, spiritual reform, you also promote social reform at the same time. The two are not separated. Let me slow down and say it again. Whenever you promote spiritual reform, social reform is its twin brother. It comes after it. You can't tell me that your heart has gotten better because Jesus now lives in you, but you still treat people the way you used to treat them 60 years ago. And here's what David is saying. Watch this. He moves from the spiritual to the political. Watch this. He says when you're spiritually right, you politically lead accurately. He says, Solomon, watch this. Now, this is what I'm telling you, fathers. Solomon, you have the ability to change the system. He says, Solomon, you have the ability to change the system. Here's what I'm challenging the men at Freedom Church. Where is our influence? We talk about making an impact and being influential. Where is it? Here's what the Lord is challenging me to tell you today. Don't you dare claim that you are spiritually better, but the society around you is staying messed up. It is our job to push for spiritual reform and revolution, but at the same time, to see as a result, social reform and resolution. When I work out, Joseph, they told me that two twins go together, diet and exercise. They say that one don't happen without the other. Yes, one is more important than the other, but to get maximum results, you gotta have both of them. That diet is 70% of it, but 30% of it is getting in there and getting active. And here's the problem. We have, yes, recognized that spiritual reform is the main thing that we need. But fathers, can I share something with you? I need you to be the main frontline people promoting that other 30%. Notice this. This is why people are healthy lifestyle eaters still having heart attacks. Because, watch this, in everything you did to put something on the inside of you, because you didn't do anything for the external, your heart was still bad. Missed it. Let me say it again. You put all these good things in you, but you didn't see, you know what food is, right? Food is fuel. If food is fuel, where are you going and what are you doing? If you don't do anything with the fuel, even the healthiest food will eventually turn against you. Y'all not gonna say it, man. Keep living like this then. I'm gonna preach this because I know it's the truth. And if you want to live like this, that's fine, but I'm gonna speak out against it. Y'all scared, huh? Y'all scared, that's what it is. It's true that spiritual reform is the most important thing, and that's why David puts it first. But it has to be accompanied by social reform. The next thing that he says is you got to protect honor. Healthy fathers protect honor. Verse 7 through 9, he tells a story, and I'm going to summarize it real quick. There were two men. When Absalom tries to take the throne, there are two men who David has to deal with. One is a man by the name of Shimei. I'm going to start with him, although he's in the latter verse. This man named Shimei sees David walking. He spits at him and curses him. He spits at him and curses him and says, you should have never been king in the first place. Should have been Saul and one of his descendants. You should have never been king. He disrespects him. He dishonors David in public. But there was another man who in the same time, well, Absalom is trying to take the throne. David is on the run. He didn't handle his business well, so he's on the run. This other man named Barzillai, he houses David. He gives him food. He gives his men shelter. He takes care of him. He protects him. And here's what David says to Solomon. He says, take care of Barzillai. He said, take care of him. He says, honor the fact that he honored me. And he says, you got to protect honor. He says, there is something to be said about a man who protects honor. And can I say after that harsh last point, I need us to understand that we still never have any right to dishonor anyone. I'm going to speak truth because it's true, but I'm never going to dishonor anyone. And the reality is, he tells Solomon, he says, protect the man who honor me. Let him sit at the table. He says, provide for him. Take care of them. Families, take care of those who honor you and teach your children to honor. One of the things we're losing in our society is honor for those who have gone before us. And here's a man that David sees as being honoring to him. He says, hey man, you honor that dude. You honor him for the rest of your life. He says, however, and that's where it gets real. He says, I put up with Shimei. I put up with Shimei for a season. I gave Shimei a pass because he apologized. But the reality is, what I dealt with, the issue I dealt with in my life might try to come back and kill you. Watch this. He says, to protect the kingdom, you're going to need to take care of that dude, man, because I don't trust his heart. Come here, fathers. The issue that you lived with all your life, don't pass it along to your kid because it might kill them. The same thing that you tolerated might be the thing to destroy them. And David says, Solomon, I don't even want you playing with it. I'm talking spiritually now. I don't know what your Shimei is. Your Shimei may not be a person. Your Shimei may be an issue, an addiction, a fear, a spiritual bondage. What is your Shimei? You got to watch this, acknowledge it in front of your kids. Let them know, yes, this is true about who I am. Yes, this is the covenant that I made with it, but watch this. Don't you do it. The same thing that I tolerated might destroy you. And this is what's happening in our generations. Daddy did a little some of this, a little some of that. And now the kids are running rampant with it. Because what leaders do in moderation, followers do in excess. What leaders do in moderation, followers do in excess. And what you need to find yourself doing is cutting off those issues that you're doing in moderation that might destroy your child if they do it in excess. What is your Shimei? You need to get rid of it today. Acknowledge it, admit it to your children, but execute it. My last point. First point, healthy fathers pass on the faith. Next, healthy fathers promote justice. Next, healthy fathers protect honor. But lastly, healthy fathers pronounce blessing. Twice in this text, I find something interesting, that in 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 6, he says to him when he's telling him to execute justice, therefore, do according to your wisdom. Verse 9, therefore, do not hold him guiltless, for you are a wise man. That doesn't make any sense to you unless you've read your Bible and you can flip to the next chapter. Because Solomon becomes king. David dies in verse 10. Solomon becomes king. He is anointed king. He is pronounced king over all Israel. The Lord appears to him in the middle of the night after he sacrificed several thousand sacrifices to the Lord. And the Lord says, what do you want? And Solomon, so we think, musters up the greatest spiritual answer that a young boy could answer. Wisdom. And the Lord says, well played, son. I'll give you wisdom, the head of your enemies, riches, a name that is above all these other names in there. I'll do all of this stuff for you because you asked for wisdom. And we've always read it thinking, Solomon, great job, nice choice. Chapter 2 explains it. That Solomon calls up what David puts in. Missed it. Verse 6, when he's telling them to execute justice, he says, don't you go by your emotions, boy. Don't you live according to what you feel is right. Use your wisdom. Then when he tells them to take care of Shimei, he says, hey, you are a wise man. He put something in Solomon in that moment that Solomon has to ask himself, am I though? Before Solomon asked for it, he asked about it. Before Solomon asked God for it, he had to ask himself about it because David told him he was wise. Solomon had to ask himself, am I wise? He says, well, my daddy says I am, but I don't know that I've ever executed wisdom. So when the Lord asked him, what do you want? He says, I want what my daddy called me. When the Lord asked him, what do you want? He says, I want what my daddy told me I already have, but I don't really know if it's there. Give me what daddy said. That in the moment where his daddy is no longer there to give him guidance, in the moment where he doesn't know where to go next, he looks up to God and says, can you give me what my daddy, because he knew his daddy was a man after God's heart. And so if it's God asking, and my daddy told me that this is what I need, daddy to daddy, give me that. Watch this. Where I'm from, when you look at somebody and you can see they being 100, all the way real, 100% genuine. When you see they're not being 100, here's what you do. You walk up to them and you're like, man, I'm going to call you out, bro. I got to call you out. I got to call you out because, watch this, either you faking or you don't know, but that ain't you. Either you lying or you don't understand, but that ain't you. And so when I call you out, what I'm literally doing is calling you to the position that you're supposed to be in. When I call you out, I'm literally saying, this is who you're supposed to be. You playing this game or that game. This is who you are. I'm calling you out. Can I talk to the daddies? Can I talk to the moms? Can I talk to the people who have influence over anybody's life? When you see them confused about who they are or where it is that they're supposed to go, how it is that they're supposed to live their life, what their purpose or their destiny is, I need you to look up toward heaven, get the word that God gives to you and call them out. Because when you call them out, you're putting in what God's going to call out later. If David hadn't told Solomon he was wise, Solomon might have asked for riches. Solomon might have asked for power. All of this revenge talk would have got Solomon to ask for God to be vengeance upon his enemy. But because David told him and spoke into his son's life, told him, you're a wise man. You got wisdom in you. You got strength in you. You better start looking at your kids and start telling them what potential they have. Start telling them what God calls them. Stop telling them what they're not. You no good. You lazy. And that's why they turn out that way. That's why they keep doing that. That's why they keep responding that way. You put it in and somebody else called it out. You nasty. You put it in. Somebody else called it out. My daughters will not be called nasty by Robert White because I'm not going to put that in and some little joker pull it out. Y'all too sad. My kids are children of the Most High God. Put it in. My kids are the head and not the tail. Put it in. They're lenders and not borrowers. Put it in. They are more than conquerors. Put it in. They can do all things through Christ who strengthens them. Put it in. And one day when adversity comes, they won't choose happiness. They'll choose the health of who they are from the inside. God will call it out. I'm calling you out. Here's why some of us can't shout. Most of us, even those of us that lived in so-called blessed homes, never had real good stuff put in. And so while I'm standing up here with the greatest fishing line of all times, trying to pull it out of you, you look at me like I'm crazy. I can be something. I can have a destiny. I've got purpose. Some of you have never even thought about your life beyond 50. I'm trying to pull out stuff that's never been put in. I'm going to fix it today. If you're here today and you respect any bit of my spiritual authority in this house as a pastor, I don't want to be your biological father. need you to call me daddy. But if you respect any bit of the authority that God has given me, and you feel, I don't care if you're 2 or 202, and you feel like, you know what, part of what he's saying is true. I just never had anybody put it in. I need you to come to the altar. Because here's what I want to do today. I want to declare over you, I'm going to put into you what God wants in you.
Thanks for listening to this message. We hope you enjoyed it. You can also view a videotaped message on our app, My Freedom DFW, found in any app store. And remember, love free, live free, be free.